Hello, I'm Randy Barber, and welcome to Let's Talk Education. This is a chance for you to hear directly from the BVSD team in regards to the important things that are going on in our schools. And as you may know, April is National Bilingual and Multilingual Learning Advocacy Month. And here in the Boulder Valley School District, we have some really great work happening in this area. And that's why I'm excited to be joined by Kristin Nelson-Steinhoff. She's BVSD's Director of Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Education. Hey, Kristin.
Hi, Randy.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Perfect. And I'm really excited because I get to also welcome onto onto the show one of my team members, who is Alejandra Corchado. She is BVSD's Digital Communications and Engagement Specialist. Hey, Alejandra.
Hey, Randy.
Hello to you both. Before we talk about Bilingual and Proud specifically, Kristin, why don't you set the stage for us a bit? Spanish speakers are a big part of our demographics here in BVSD, but bilingualism hasn't always been at the forefront, has it?
We have about 4,300 of our 29,000 students come from bilingual homes, 67% of those from Spanish-speaking homes. BVSD has bilingual programming and has had bilingual programming for many years, but really getting the word out about our programs and allowing and raising up the programs so that our families see them as great options for their students has been one of our challenges. Many of our families believe that the quickest way to English is in our English-only programs, and that's really not the case in terms of what research tells us as best practice for students. So we're very excited to have 3 elementary bilingual programs in Spanish and English, Escuela Bilingüe Pioneer, University Hill in Boulder, and Columbine Elementary in Boulder. And then we will have, moving into next year, 3 middle school programs, a strand at Casey Middle School, a strand at Manhattan Middle School, and a strand of dual language at Angevine Middle School. It's just starting that one as we move into next school year.
And this is really important work because here in BVSD, we believe that bilingualism is a superpower. And I know this is one of my favorite things after I started working on this is learning about all the benefits that being bilingual has for our students. Right, Kristin?
Absolutely. It really is, gives kids amazing advantages. I'd say the very first and foremost is the ability to connect and feel pride in their identity and to have those meaningful, important relationships with their families. I also believe that there are great benefits for students who are bilingual, who as they move into the careers and college that really, and we've been able to, over the past several years, recognize our bilingual students who have reached high levels of English and another language through the Colorado State Seal of Biliteracy. And that's been a really meaningful, exciting opportunity for us to recognize our students as they leave our system for their accomplishments. And we have universities that are recognizing those achievements as well. And so very excited about that.
Alejandra, while most people realize that Spanish is pretty prominent language in this area, they probably don't realize that BVSD serves a lot of students that speak other languages as well.
That's right. So we actually have 91 languages represented at BVSD, which is really awesome. And so we're really hoping to really encourage all of them, right? Not just our Spanish speakers, but any dual language student to really keep that second language, regardless of what it is.
And I remember seeing the list that we had, beyond Spanish, what other languages are sort of at the top of that list? I'm going to put you on the spot.
So Spanish is our top one, but we also, I'll list like our top 5. We have Mandarin, Chinese, Nepali, Japanese, Korean, French, Russian, German. I mean, the list goes on. Like I said, 91 languages.
That's pretty outstanding. And Kristin, I know that this really ties to our All Together for All Students strategic plan. By supporting other languages, our hope is that this will welcome and provide a warm culture for our students and their parents, building partnerships between our families so that we can all support our students.
Absolutely, Randy. When we think about our Boulder Valley strategic plan and our 4 themes, really Proud to be Bilingual really does help foster that positive and inclusive culture and the partnerships with our families. I'd also say that when we're talking about our bilingual programs, we're also connecting to the themes of challenging and engaging and relevant instruction and customized supports as well.
So when we think about what this is going to look like moving forward, what's your dream here, Kristin?
My dream is that every student who enters our school system with a language other than English feels empowered and emboldened and is celebrated and lifted up across our system, and that those students, because we value that throughout their years with us, also are those students that earn the seal of biliteracy as they finish up 12th grade.
I know that, part of the idea of the campaign that we've got is that students see themselves in the hallways, that they understand that we see this as a superpower, that we know that this is important. I'm going to bring up some of the materials that have been created here so that we can kind of talk about them. Hang on one second. Somewhere here. Here we go. So Alejandra, I know, let's see here. Let's look at some of those materials. These are some of the materials that were sent out to our schools. Alejandra, why don't you kind of walk through what we're seeing here?
Yeah, so we created flyers and posters for all of our students, and they have already been sent out to all schools, and we really tailored them by age group. So what you're seeing right here are the elementary superhero posters and flyers. And we really tailored these for our younger students and for their families to see bilingualism as a superpower, right? Something that would hopefully really engage with them, and they could look up and be like, all right, I want to be a superhero and here's my superpower, but then also work to support families on how can you foster your second language at home. So really sharing those tips with families on what can they do at home to support their students on this bilingual journey.
And then you're also working on high school stuff as well?
Yes, so the secondary posters and flyers were really centered around the idea of Mi corazón late en dos idiomas, which translates to my heart beats in 2 languages. And the idea here is same thing, to really promote bilingualism amongst the students and really foster pride, and then share with them resources at the district that they can take advantage of, or what can they do with the second language, right? So as they're in middle school and then getting to high school, already in high school, how can they use their bilingualism, and how can they really take advantage of programs that are already at the district? So this is where the flyer really showcases that language is an asset, and we really promote the seal of biliteracy as an option for the students.
I know that this is the end result of the work, but you guys on the front end, Alejandra, went out and spoke to families. They gave you some feedback that helped to sort of coalesce into this idea.
Yeah, so one of the differences in this campaign, as people will notice, is that we have printed flyers for every student at the district. And that really came from our feedback that we received from our parents before we even began this campaign, is they said we would really appreciate having these materials available in paper, something that they can take home with them, that they can put on their fridge, because the reality was that for a lot of these bilingual families, email wasn't the best communication, and we really wanted to respect that and be inclusive, which is why we not only shared this electronically, but we also made sure that all students can have the ability to have this in paper, to make sure that this message is really reaching as many families as possible.
I'm just going to shrink this down real quick here and get out of it. So just a follow-up to that just for a second. I know that, after the materials went out, we did get some feedback from schools. I think they're so used to the idea that everything be shared electronically. It's kind of the way that the world has gone, that we've had to kind of work with them and say, no, really, that was not a mistake that we sent out that many flyers, right?
Right. And I think that was a learning process for everybody, right? We're so used to getting notifications on our phones, on our computers, on email, and that's just where we're getting all of the information. but we need to realize that that isn't the preferred method of communication for everybody, right? So what do we do on our side to really be more inclusive in order to make sure that all of our families are able to receive not just this messaging, which is really important, but all other messaging? And that means, you know, going back to paper when necessary, just to make sure that we don't miss anyone.
Kristin, I know that you said earlier that the end goal here is the seal of biliteracy. We really want kids to be working towards that seal. It's part of our Grad Plus framework. You know, we see that as sort of a pinnacle for these students as they're working through their education. What does that look like? What does this all mean?
Sure. So students that earn the seal of biliteracy demonstrate high levels of proficiency in English. And so by earning a 3.0 grade point average in their English language arts classes at the high school level, or scoring certain levels on the SAT or the ACT, taking AP English courses, they demonstrate those pieces in English. And then in their other language, they do similar things. They take 5 years or more of their language and receive a 3.0. They score at certain levels on IB or AP assessments. And then we also have recently begun using a nationally recognized assessment called the STAMP assessment that allows us to test students in languages that we don't even offer instruction in here in Boulder Valley, but that really opens it up and allows us to recognize more students.
And so they earn a green tassel that they can wear at graduation as part of their regalia, right?
They do, and they also have it printed on their transcripts. And the transcript also lists the languages in which, and when I say languages, we do have some students who will learn 2 or 3 languages or earn the seal of biliteracy in more than just one language, which is amazing and exciting and such an accomplishment. They also receive a certificate that acknowledges that achievement. And this all happens at graduation time.
And so I know that is kind of the end goal that we hope that every student can achieve, but we're not stopping there. We're going to honor kids that are on the path. We're going to honor kids that may not have gotten to that place, but have been working towards being bilingual, right?
Absolutely. As Alejandra talked about the opportunities and the things that we learned from families in our focus group before we began with the campaign, one of the other things we heard was that students needed to feel recognized and honored earlier and ongoing in the process, and needed to know about it earlier and before they reached high school. And so we are currently planning in May to welcome our 5th graders and our 8th graders. Those were the 2 grade levels that we are choosing to really hone our recognitions at, because those are nice transitional grades in our system. But we're inviting those students to come to a big party celebration luncheon here at the Ed Center, and students have offered to bring samples of their work and celebrate their work in other languages. We are also offering up the STAMP assessment, so looking at kids reading, writing, speaking, and listening in their languages. And just this past Saturday, we had students here who tested in Japanese and Chinese, Urdu, Portuguese, Hebrew, Turkish, Spanish, French, ASL, German, and Polish. It was an amazing event. Super excited to recognize and honor students as they're moving through our system as well, not just as they earn the seal of biliteracy in 12th grade.
So again, as we kind of talked about before, a big chunk of this is really, you know, families that are speaking this language at home, right? And so the kids are having some fluency from their parents. And then there are some opportunities also. I know that you talked about the bilingual strands. And kids might be learning, you know, foreign languages as part of that as well, right?
Absolutely. I spoke to a parent who brought her child in just today, in fact, and she said, oh, we might not be able to make it because he's got Japanese school. And so our families are also taking advantage of opportunities inside our community to lift up and celebrate their language and to really give the language to their students. And we want to encourage and celebrate families that are able to do that as well. And really then give students feedback along the way around, you might want to work a little bit more on reading or on writing in these specific areas. That will be an important opportunity for us as well.
Because again, the end goal is for them to be both biliterate and bilingual, that they're able to sort of to really go out there and right off the bat be able to work in that environment, right?
Absolutely. We really are also trying to communicate just the marketability of our bilingual students and what the advantages of walking into a professional field, or even not necessarily a professional field, a high school job, using two languages, and how important that is and how valued that is.
And again, we talked about all the posters and all that, Alejandra, but I know we're even talking about pins so that people that are bilingual can wear that proudly, and people can kind of recognize that or be able to say, I speak that language too.
Yeah, we're hoping to be able to do that either at the end of the school year or maybe as part of our plan next school year, where we can get students these pins that'll say, I am bilingual, or I speak whatever language they speak in that language, so that they can take that with them in whatever career they want to after graduation or during a high school job. And it'll really clearly say, right, like, soy bilingüe or hablo español, so that it's clear to whoever they're interacting with that they have this skill.
This is so cool. And I know that as a school district, we've really been putting a priority on trying to match schools and the diversity that we have in the schools with people of color, people that can speak those languages. It's so exciting that we're going to get to celebrate the kids and hopefully get them to that seal of biliteracy. I do want to give both of you guys a chance to chat anything that we missed, or your vision as you hope, what you hope for as we head forward into the future with this. I guess I should have said who first. I'm going to back up and just say, again, such an exciting thing to see this. I won't go all the way back. I'm trying to think of where I could cut it. Why don't I go back to that thing again? Was that okay, Kristin, by the way I said that?
Yeah.
Okay. So exciting. I know that as a school district, we've been really focused on trying to make sure that we're matching the great diversity, the beautiful diversity that we have in our schools with our staff, trying to make sure that we're hiring people of color, people that have, that are linguistically diverse, that can bring those skills to the classroom, to their schools. To see us being able to celebrate our kids and their skills is just so exciting. I do want to give both of you guys an opportunity to speak and share anything I might have missed, or your vision for the future as we look forward here. Kristin, I'll have you start.
Sure. Again, my vision and my hope for us as a district is that we continue to elevate languages other than English across our system for all students, and that we all see the benefits and the values of learning about the world around us, and what an amazing opportunity we have to learn from one another and to grow as a community, as we focus ourselves on bilingualism and multiculturalism.
Alejandra.
Ditto. But to add to that, I'm really looking forward to continuing to working on this campaign with Kristin and helping really create that culture change, right? Because we really do need to encourage our students, but also our families, and just letting them in on this amazing opportunity that's there, and really helping them with this partnership, right? It definitely is a partnership between the schools, the district, and the family, so that students can be successful and really take advantage of this skill and take it with them, right? So continuing to empower these students to maintain their language, to expand it, and to take it with them whatever career field, wherever they decide to go.
Thank you both for joining me. When we come back from break, we will talk about the ways that we are supporting families to speak another language with our translation and interpretation team. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As we were talking about earlier in the show, a part of our strategic plan is building partnerships with our families, understanding that beyond a good teacher, the support of families is a very important factor to student success. I'm now joined by two amazing people from my team as well. Don McGinnis, the BVSD Manager of Translation and Interpretation. Hey, Don.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And our coordinator over interpretation, Fabi Gomez. Hey, Fabi.
Hi, Randy. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me. All right. So, Don, I don't think a lot of people really realize that school districts across America are required to provide access to families that don't speak English. Give us a little bit of the lay of the land here.
Well, it's true. It's something that's not commonly known, but in fact, both the Department of Education and the Department of Justice at a national level require school districts to provide critical information to parents in a language that they understand. And so what that means is information regarding their kids' education, critical services for their kids, all of those things that can really affect the way that you support your child at home. Parents have a right to have that information, and we as a school district have the obligation to provide it to them in a manner that they can understand.
Over the past couple of years, I know that you and your team have been working to move BVSD to a more centralized system. Tell us a little bit about what you've done.
Well, when I stepped into this department and started working for the district, we were doing this sort of work, but it was decentralized. It was kind of haphazard, and so there was this onus that was always on the schools to provide the service when they found that it was necessary. And what would happen is we would see situations where schools would wait till the last second, or they didn't really know what they were supposed to do. And so when you have so many players on the field, you're not moving the ball to the goalpost. Everybody is just kind of doing their own thing. And so what we really wanted to do was we wanted to make it as easy for school and staff to provide this service. So what that meant was centralizing everything, reconfiguring it such that at the school level, all a teacher or an administrator has to do is just send a request to us. And in the back end, we're the ones finding the people, organizing the meetings, and sending the people to the meetings to interpret professionally for parents that need critical information.
I know that in the past, schools used to kind of manage these budgets themselves and kind of handle things on their own. It was a little bit hodgepodgey in regards to what you would see from school to school. This is really kind of try to cinch that all up.
Yeah, and it's the same sort of situation. You split up all of this effort, you split up all of the resources, you make it everyone else's responsibility to deal with their little piece of the puzzle. And, it created situations where schools would get a very small amount of money that they would have dedicated to these services. And by the end of the year, they'd already blown through it. And so you have families that weren't being served because the school was afraid of going beyond a budget that they shouldn't really have been constrained by in the first place. So we took all those budgets, we combined them, and we said to the schools, ask for what you need. The money is something that we'll worry about on our end, but what's important is that your parents receive those services. So, stop thinking about the backstops, stop thinking about the money. That's my job. You guys ask for what you need and we'll make it happen.
And what I've heard so far is that the feedback from the schools has been very positive.
I mean, certainly they're happy to not have to do all of the legwork on certain things themselves. And of course, they see the positive impact on their families who are much more engaged than they could have been before.
Perfect. Bobby, I know that you guys have been super busy. You're coordinating a lot of interpretation requests. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis for you?
Well, like Don said, we took over all the hassle of finding the interpreting schedule. So it's very easy for the schools, and it takes 10 seconds to submit a request. And we're right there having the interpreters. We have a pool of around 50 of our own independent contractors, plus we work with several agencies. So we can cover pretty much almost 100% of the requests we receive. In almost 90 languages. And if not, we have several resources that we can find interpretation in different places. Very busy, but very happy to see the services that we're providing our families, and the feedback we get from schools is very positive.
I know that you personally sometimes do that work. I was amazed when you sit in the back of one of these rooms and watch this happen. It's otherworldly. I don't think most people think it's even possible to do what you guys are able to do, which is like the words come in through your ears and somehow within seconds are right out in another language out of your mouth. How do you guys even do that?
A lot of training. And that's why we are very careful in the interpreters we hire to make sure they're professional interpreters with the skills needed to offer these kind of services. But it's a skill and it's practice.
This is not something that, and I think you were just talking about this is not something that just everybody can do. And I think sometimes it might if somebody hasn't prepared for this, hasn't called in for an interpreter to be there, they might put somebody in that role that just knows a little bit of Spanish, or maybe ask their kid to help with that. This is something that we're trying to avoid. We really want there to be professional services for folks when they need to speak to their teacher or their principal, that kind of thing.
It's very important for the families to know that, and the school, and we talk and we go to the schools and let the staff know that our policy and what we want, we need professional services offered to our families. Is their right, and it's what we aim for. And schools are responding very well to that. I've seen even meetings, postpone when the interpreter is not there or they haven't found one. So it's something we're working very hard in the district to make sure that's what our families are getting.
So I know a big part of our process is really working with staff, trying to make sure that the schools are aware of the process, that they, that they have the form that they have to fill in order to order up the services, that they do that in advance and all that kind of thing. From a parent point of view, what would you want people to know about the services and how to access them?
Well, we want families to know that it's their right first, and that every employee in the district has access to our scheduling platform, and anybody can request an interpreter. And it's important for the parents to know that we have the service, that they have the right to ask for it, and we will offer the service. We have, like I said, the platform, we have telephone services too, 24/7. So it's important for the families to know that we have all those services, and anybody, they have the right to request it at any school, any meeting they attend.
Yeah, in fact, we help to produce these posters, right, that are supposed to be up in school offices. And so if somebody walks in and doesn't speak English, if the person at the desk doesn't understand what they're trying to say, we can have them point at the language, and that person at the front desk can ring right up to a telephone service and get that two-way communication going right away.
And it's right away, and it's covered by us. There's no cost for the schools, and they put an interpreter right away on the line to communicate with the family.
Don, I know last year, a big leap for you guys was taking on translation for special education. This has been, it's one of those kind of situations where I think before only had one person. There was somebody separate, I think, handling those things over there. Again, we're trying to really centralize that, make sure that we're handling all these things in a like fashion. And so now we're even providing families with access to draft versions of their children's individual education plans. All this is a very big lift for your team. Kind of tell us about what all went into that.
Of course. Well, it's been, a project that's kind of been on the radar for a long time. BVSD has a long history of trying to go above and beyond when it comes to special education and the students that need extra support. And for a long time, that hasn't really extended itself to that portion of the community that, doesn't speak English. And so this whole idea that special education in our district will send parents a draft of their child's IEP document 5 days before the meeting, it's something that's not done anywhere else. It represents a huge effort on the part of the teachers that are implementing the services. But with that, nobody ever really thought to say, well, should we be doing the same thing for Spanish speakers, for other folks at our schools that don't understand English? Shouldn't they have the same right to be able to review that information 5 days prior to the meeting? And so with that, when we took over the work of doing all the translation for this, we had to sit down and really think, what's it going to take financially? What's it going to take as far as resources and coordination? And it's been a huge effort. We started doing it at a certain subset of schools in the district that require more support or have a bolstered community of people who speak Spanish. And we've seen some really great feedback. But of course, with that comes, the commitment to doing it, the investment of getting it done. You talk about a plan that's sometimes 60 pages long. You have a teacher that has weeks to write it, and then we have 5 days to turn it around because they give it to us. We translate it in 5 days, and then they send it to the family before the meeting. And so it does represent a huge push, but it's work that we're really proud of because it goes above and beyond the expectations that are set for the school district. Legally, it's not something that's required, but ethically, we view it as something that's very much needed.
And we're not talking about, like a letter from the teacher to the parent. I mean, this is some of the toughest kind of language that we have to work through as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, services for children on these plans can, span anywhere from an hour of extra service time a week to really, really critical services that are rendered within the school. And if parents aren't aware of what kind of support they need to provide their kids at home, then there's a real risk of, those kids not being served in the right way or in the way that they should be. Education is at its best when there is real, tangible collaboration between the home and the school. And we need to make sure that that happens for everyone, not just for folks who speak English.
I love that you said that. And I think it is so very important. Another element of this I'm going to have Bobby talk about is really this concept of our board meetings. So, this is elected people that have been elected by the community that are serving them. They're doing that business of setting the policy for the district. And so you and your team, Bobby, have really been working to make sure that those meetings are available in Spanish, and we're actually broadcasting those live.
Yeah, we're very proud of that work. We live streamed live at the same time as it's coming out in English, so a person can be watching the board meeting in Spanish at the same minute that somebody that speaks English is watching it. So we're very proud of that work. It takes a lot of preparation, a lot of hours, but it's a service that we're proud to give to our families, and it's there, and we offer it live. Every board meeting, we're there.
And I know that that we also want to welcome folks, Spanish speakers, to our board meetings. If you need to make a public comment, we will have someone there to translate for you. If you're looking for help in understanding what's going on during the meeting, we're there to serve as well during that time, right, Bobby?
We offer live stream, and then we offer in-person simultaneous interpretation too. If anybody shows up to the board meeting, we're there.
And that's a huge change. I know when I came to the school district, that was just not, I think it was upon request. And now we've really made that commitment. All these, board meetings are now archived. What a huge thing that you guys are able to do there. So that to that point, I know, Dawn, you have gotten calls from some of our neighboring faraway school districts, in regards to the work that we're doing. We've really become a model for other folks. I know that's probably not how you would say it, but as your boss, I will proudly say that we've been a bit of a model. What kinds of questions are you getting from them?
I would say a lot of the questions that we get from other agencies and school districts are just, how did you do that? Currently we have, between myself, Fabi, and the interpreters, 5 people, supporting every meeting. But what's really hard for other agencies and districts to wrap their minds around is kind of the technical aspect of it all. How do you take that audio, how do you take that video and get it out to people simultaneously to the live broadcast? I mean, during COVID, we've all switched from doing things in person to doing things either online or hybrid. And a lot of folks are just kind of at a loss of what to do. So a lot of, other agencies have seen what we're doing. They see that it works. I mean, everything can be improved upon, but you need a really solid first step in understanding the technical aspects behind that broadcast and how to implement it. And so I've been really happy to collaborate with some of our neighboring school districts in showing them what we've been doing and helping them tailor it to their own board meetings.
I was actually struck. We were speaking to the BVSD Community Leadership Academy recently, and you made a statement that just sort of stopped me in my tracks a little bit here, which is the idea. And I do know that within our school district we have high standards, but there isn't like regulation in the state or in the United States really about translation. There's not something where you get a certificate or some sort of special license to do this work. That stunned me.
Yeah, it's a constant problem. It affects, so many things across the board. If you work in a hospital or in a courtroom, there's certain expectations that you have to meet. You have to have education, you have to have a work history. You would balk at the idea of somebody walking into a courtroom and having their child interpret for them during a formal proceeding. That's not legal. But at a school district, during a special education meeting, there's not really anything that says that can't happen. It's really astonishing. And so part of the work isn't just finding people who are qualified, it's determining how to judge whether they're qualified or not. So we have to test people in-house. We have to, have materials that we can send translators to send back to us to really make sure we're vetting folks appropriately before we send them to an environment where their ability to do their job can really impact a child's future.
So in the future, are you hoping for something that's a little bit like the CLL biliteracy that we were talking about earlier, but that would denote that you really hit this mark that then would be universal across the industry?
Absolutely. And I think people on both sides of the aisle, both the clients or the people receiving the services, as well as the interpreters giving those services, would agree that recognition and certification are things that are really important. On the school side, you want to know immediately that the person that is serving your child is qualified to do it. And as the person doing that work, you want to know that you're going to be recognized and that your hard work is going to pay off. Nobody gets into this job for the money, but it's work that's really important to all of us. And if we can't recognize on any sort of higher level that there is a necessity for it and that there is a need for standardization and real professionalism in the industry, then we can't guarantee that people are getting served the way that we need to. And I think that's something that everyone in this industry agrees on.
And I know from firsthand experience in trying to hire, people with a Spanish proficiency, that it's anybody can kind of say, well, I'm an emerging, Spanish speaker, and that could mean that they've just been taking a couple Duolingo classes, or like it could really mean anything. But having that certification would mean something legit that everybody could look at. I think that's a really great idea. Well, I do want to give both of you guys an opportunity before we wrap up today. Is there anything that I didn't ask you guys about, or as you look forward into the future, what are you hoping for? I'll start with Don.
Your questions have been really thorough, and I applaud you for doing the research that it takes to ask those kinds of questions. I would just say that, my biggest hope is a little bit intangible, but I just want families to understand that it's not okay when they don't know what is going on in the school or the classroom. It's not okay when they can't support their kid at home because they don't know what their kid needs. These are things that a lot of people take for granted. And usually it's the people in charge making rules, deciding what merits certification or standardization, that kind of take those things for granted. So my hope is for a little bit more transparency, knowledge, and sympathy, because that's the kind of thing that leads to people understanding that these are necessary services and we need to support our families who don't speak English.
Bobby, how about you?
Kind of to what Don just said, I've been in the district for a long time, serving families, advocating for families, and I see what we do in my department as part of that advocacy for families and support. What I want the most for families to be informed, and schools to know that we're here, that we're serving, that families need to have all those services, and that all the families receive the quality of the service that we're able to provide.
I think what you just said is really key, and I would be remiss not to give a huge thank you and a shout out to our teachers, the educators in our schools. I know we talked about special education. The people that are working there, that are doing this hard work of actually educating kids, we're there to support them. We want to make sure that those relationships with their parents are good so that they can support them. But I think that's really crucial, right? I mean, they're the ones that are actually in the buildings doing this work. We give them all the praise for the work that's going on out there, right, Fabi?
All the praise, and I want them to know we're here, 100% supporting them and working hard to give them all the services to help them serve their families.
Perfect. I think that's an excellent way to end. I want to thank both of you guys for joining me today, and thank you all for watching Let's Talk Education. This has been a great conversation in regards to the work that we're doing here, and I really appreciate everybody's time. This has been Let's Talk Education in the Boulder Valley School District, where we are all together for all students. Have a great day.